Is the gallery ready over there? Okay, all right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order this April 25th, 2018 regular board meeting of the Pullman School District. And we will begin, as we always do, with our flag salute led by PHS student Mandy Rubino.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Superintendent Maxwell, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Just not a change, but just an update on 2409 and 2410. That would be A and B under discussion items. A brand new revised clean copy came out this afternoon, so I apologize that many of you probably did not have the opportunity to take a look at that, but I just wanted to note that it was cleaned up for the ease of reading. So, but it's a discussion item tonight, so you'll have time to look at it in more in depth. So just want to let you know last minute. So.
Well, on that note, I will move that we approve the agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Next, we'll move on to reports, correspondence, and program, beginning with board reports. Director Weed.
Oh, I have lots. It's Art Week this week at Pullman High School, so if you wander around, you'll see different student artwork being displayed and honored, and I guess they're even doing daily musical performances at lunch hour and stuff, so it's kind of fun, and it's neat to have them be able to strut their stuff. Soccer is currently 9-1. They play at Clarkston on Thursday, and if they win that, then they've wrapped up the league title for this year. If they don't win, well, they'll keep playing. And then I have, a bunch more. First of all, I want to talk about the plant sale, FFA plant sale, and the Vica Yard art sale. That is coming up this Saturday. It's always fun stuff, but you can usually find fun little things to stick in your yard. And then the plants, they have some great prices on the plants, and it supports FFA, which is always a very good thing. And I had the price list on the plants there. Okay. We've got lobelia for $1.50 in a pony pack, pansies, petunias, snapdragons, those kinds of things, a lot of alyssum, geraniums. They always do a lot of geraniums in it. They're kind of fun. They even have planted baskets for you and a few vegetable starters. So there you go. If you've not ever been, this is the time to go. They even can have coffee and donuts for sale, so you can spend a long time there looking at stuff. And that is from 8 a.m. and then 2 p.m. at the greenhouse up in the back here at the high school. Then congratulations to Clara Nichols, Pullman High School sophomore, who won $5,000 at WSU School of Business Plan competition. Her entry was on her wheel-throwing pottery business. So congratulations to her. That's pretty awesome. The robotics team, FRC Team 4061, traveled to Houston last week to compete and at the first championships.
I'm just providing you a visual.
Oh, there we go. And they finished in third place, which is a stunning achievement considering the field of competition was comprised of 400 winning teams from all over the world. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Damn, this school is good. And then, I think they're looking for judges for the senior project. Culminating project, they call it now. So if anybody's interested in that, Kelly Glaze is the one to contact. There, I think I did it all.
Okay.
So there we are, my report.
All right, thank you very much. Director Roberts?
So I was going to give a shout out to the robotics team as well, but Susan did a much better job than I
fine.
would have, I think. And also I just wanted to say that there's a Governor's Committee on Disability and Employment Issues tomorrow. I'm hoping to go really just to learn more about local options that are available and kind of what's going on in the scene, and also just to kind of help inform discussions on the Skills Center and perhaps how that could help with youth unemployment and job skills and stuff. So looking forward to that tomorrow, but otherwise nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Director Everman?
Just some addition on the robotics team. That included schools from Colton, Colfax, and Moscow high schools in addition to the Pullman High. So it's really a regional team. And that shows well for our school as well. So that's all I have to add.
Okay, thank you. Director Tanner?
I have no report today.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, there was something I was going to follow up on, Susan, but yes, I'll do this. I attended with Superintendent Maxwell the Superintendents Association Community Leadership Awards today, and I'd like to report that our former board members, Dean Kinzer and Carl Johansson, were honored for their long-term service to the district, along with people from all the other districts in ESD 101.
101,
And it was very nice. I saw Jake and Shauna there, and so it was all good. Gosh, Susan, what is it that you talked about? There was something I wanted, the plant sale. I inquired about the possibility of us getting some plants because we have the WASDA regional meeting coming up here on May. Everybody has that in their
Third.
calendar.
Next week.
Yeah, next week.
Next week.
Do we?
It's like Thursday, right?
Okay, so we're going to have some centerpieces from the plant
Oh,
sale
good.
at our regional meeting, so that will be very nice. All right.
We're
Thank you
buying
for-
them, right?
I assume we're buying them.
Yes, I told them we would.
Okay,
so.
perfect, okay.
It's a fundraiser, it's kind of hard to take away from.
Yeah,
All right.
agreed.
I think
Okay.
we're buying them.
Good. Just checking.
All right, and that is my report. So, Superintendent's Report.
Okay, just to add on to the plant sales, also, I'm assuming that Vince and the metal shop will be also providing, selling things that they've put together and made as a fundraiser as well. And so I'd encourage people to check that out. And the line forms early, so get there early if you want best pickings for the plant sale. Just want to remind, hopefully all of our board members, they received a flyer from WASDA with some important dates. Also talks about the Legislative Assembly, which this year we had miscommunication on that. So if you did not receive this, I can pass it around. So also just want to let you know, the Pullman Education Foundation awarded their innovation grant, which is a $10,000 grant, and that went to Marla Haugen at LMS, and they will be using that money to have some significant upgrades to the LMS garden in the back of the school. And so Marla's got quite a comprehensive plan in place, and stiff competition for that grant this year. Probably the best written grants I've seen thus far. This is the second year they've done that. So well done, and encourage the folks that submitted grants that did not get awarded to resubmit them again. So also we received a check, and of course the board would have to approve this, but it's for $10,000. From the estate of Ralph Pullman, and it's to the Pullman High School Athletics Department.
Oh,
So
that's so neat.
Ralph, and I know Ralph also donated other funds to some other groups in the community. So so it's to the athletic department, and that of course will be distributed some way amongst all the sports teams. So.
Ralph was just awesome. He was so dedicated to the
Very.
high school and to the student athletes, and all he did, especially through baseball and all the stats
And I
keeping.
saw him at every game, basketball,
Yeah.
football, whatever.
Kiwanis meetings.
And Kiwanis
Yeah.
meetings. I mean, he was just very active. So
Neat guy.
also, just to let you know, we had our parent resource partnership put on by Dr. Kramer and Megan Atani, and had a nice turnout. And so of parents and community members to talk about services and presentations and different things that that group would like to pursue. So it was well attended, a great meeting. On the same night, we also had Social Media and Kids, What Parents Should Know, and that was presented by Officer Scott Patrick. So we didn't have as high as an attendance rate as we typically would with that presentation, but the parents who did attend, and some of the high school students as well, it was very informative, and so that is something that we might take a look at the timing of that in the future. And so generally, it's been a pretty large crowd, but
Was there a reason that it was at the high school instead of the middle school?
we were looking at targeting elementary in particular, and thought rather than hold it at one elementary, maybe hold it in the theater where we thought
I
we
see.
might have a
Yeah,
bigger
makes
crowd.
sense.
Typically, Officer Patrick has done one specifically for the middle school, at the middle school, and we've had upwards to 100 people show up at
Yeah.
that. And it's a wonderful presentation, so, and always changing, so. Also, Kamiah Elementary, we have our meeting tomorrow, but last week at the meeting, we're on schedule. It's looking very good. They will probably start drywalling in about 6 weeks,
Oh, nice.
and cabinetry to follow. So they are making significant progress. So really happy with what's happening out there. I will be arranging for a tour with the board in May or June. So Shannon will help. Maybe we'll do that before or after a work session or a school board meeting. Typically, we've done that, so you don't have to take another day. But really would like to try to get you in there in the next couple months, so you can kind of see for yourself up close what it looks like. So
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
yeah, so we'll get you hard hats and tell you to wear proper shoes. But it'd be a nice opportunity for the board to take a look. Also, we received news that due to our increased efficiency in our transportation department, we received $82,000 for this school year
Way to go, Tammy.
for improved
That's half of us.
That's amazing.
Well, it doesn't go to purchasing a bus, but it helps to offset our costs.
Good.
But it's very interesting how this all happens, but people who aren't as efficient get docked, and people that are more efficient get some of the extra funds distributed. So anyway, so well done. Tammy is here tonight.
Yes,
So.
thank you, Tammy.
Also, Tammy sent out a ridership report, and it's up over last year by 114. So our ridership is up, which
And our efficiency is up. Way
and
to
our
go.
efficiency's up. So great job. More riders.
More riders, same buses. Efficiency.
Also, my last item, and we'll go down here. So one of the projects I've been working on is coordinating a standardized elementary school supply list. And so it's been a work in progress over the last several months, but I want to give a shout out to all the elementary school teachers that took time out of their busy schedule to discuss, work, edit, redo, discuss, and come up with a list that will hopefully provide a little financial relief to parents, as well as help us to establish a better baseline on how much in resources for supplies we should be providing the buildings. So I'll just give you a quick look here at what we came up with. So what we found in the community is that we had 4 different lists out in the community. Now we will have one, and we will add Kamiah to this when Kamiah is on board, but we have what all kids should bring, and that's, of course, a clean pair of tennis shoes for PE, a backpack with their name in it. Also, that sometimes school supplies may need to be replaced. Also, this is what kindergarten, first, second, third has always been a smaller list. 4th grade and 5th grade, so all the schools, these would be what would be the required supplies. I've also met with Stuff to Bus, and I'll talk about that later, but one of the things that we're looking at is advertising exactly what each level, grade level is required for supplies and what we would like to receive. And so we're going to be promoting that heavily. On the back side, there is an optional supply list: Dixie Cups, paper brown bags, headphones or earbuds, notebook dividers.
Dixie, are those little small drinking
Yep.
cups you mean?
Yep, the little 5-ounces.
Because when I think of Dixie Cups, I think of those little ice cream.
Yeah.
They used to be called Dixie Cups.
So whatever the 5-ounce size is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. District will provide the following,
yeah.
so facial tissue, pencils, wipes, hand sanitizer. We're going to provide class sets of scissors and rulers. We think we received extra funding from the state for supplies. We're going to help that by supplying those items. It'll also be a nice gift to the new teachers coming on board. And so, paper and bottled glue. The building are going to provide paper notebooks, specialized journals, composition books, folders. And the reason the buildings would be providing these because at different grade levels, different teachers within those grade levels have different organizational systems, such as Allison may use yellow folders, I like blue with pockets, without pockets.
Mm-hmm.
So what we decided that a better thing was they would put the order into the building and the building would order those.
Mm-hmm.
Be more efficient, give us a better read on those items. This is just an example of the stuff, the bus flyer we put together to share. And so very colorful. And these would be the things that we would seek from the community.
Just a little suggestion. I know that there was a discussion sometime in my fairly recent past about school supplies, freshmen not knowing what to bring, what to get, and some suggestions maybe for middle school and the high school,
Yep.
just to throw in there because a lot of kids don't know, and you don't want to be the odd man out and all of that. So.
And we talked a lot about that actually, and so
Oh, good.
we're going to be tackling the middle school and high school next. So,
Good.
But
Thank you.
it was a great process. I really appreciate the thought from the teachers that went into this, and it was very helpful. You'll see on the court and gallon size, they do it by last name, so pretty efficient system. So we're going to run with it this coming year, and then of course we'll probably make some adjustments as necessary. But a big step forward, and nice to get accomplishment on something.
I have to say, as a parent, thank you. I can remember times going to like
I also
4
have hard
different
copies if you want.
stores to try to find obscure items, and all of these items look like things that you could purchase at any store.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be a great help to just say, well, we're all using Crayola. That way you're not getting some
Yep.
obscure, different product in there. So,
And there's a particular pencil that all the teachers want, we're just going to buy them.
yeah.
And we can get them cheaper through KCDA through the state, so
Yeah.
as a group purchase.
So is there money coming from somewhere for the district to supply all of those items? Because the list is much shorter than I've seen before.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's
So
significantly.
where's the money coming from?
Comes from, it's called MSOCs, and so the state has provided some additional dollars in the MSOCs,
Okay.
specifically for operational cost and supplies.
Okay, so is that going to continue to come in, or
Yep.
is that this a one-time thing?
No, that'll continue to come
Okay,
in.
cool.
And that'll help us budget better. Some of our schools were significantly different in what they were asking for.
Oh, really? I didn't even realize that the elementary schools had different lists.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then there was the issue, it would say buy Ticonderoga pencils, which we
Oh, yeah.
always would, but they cost 4 times as much as something else. And so other people would bring in the cheaper thing, and then you're like, well, but
And we wouldn't use the cheaper. and
Yeah.
It was very inefficient.
Yeah.
So we're helping to establish a baseline for our supplies in our buildings.
Are we hoping to have the middle school and high school lists done for next school year as well?
I will try. I'm not going to make a promise, but we are going to take a look at, especially like the graphing notebooks, which nobody can find. And so
Those can be a huge challenge.
we can order those. And parents, it really hit this last year when we had parents coming in 2 days before school, and they're like, I can't find this, and I'm like, just relax and we'll figure it out. It's
Yeah.
not going to be the end of the world. And so this will hopefully get us much further.
Great.
It's really great. Okay.
I'm going to have Mandy give the PHS ASB report, and then the last will be Mr. Polstad, who'll play my report. So.
Okay, hello, it's so nice to meet all of you. My name is Mandy Ravenio, and I'm a junior at Pullman High School, and I'll be the new executive press secretary for the 2018-2019 school year, which I'm super excited about. I'm in lots of activities at Pullman, such as softball, FFA. I'm going to be participating in the musicals next year, and executive ASB, of course, and I'm just super excited for all the stuff that I'm going to be doing at the high school next year through exec and all the other programs that I'm involved in. So first off, I wanted to talk about our Kiss a Senior Goodbye. It's something that the ASB and leadership are going to be running, and it's just a way for the kids at Pullman High School to say goodbye to our seniors because we're going to miss them dearly and we don't have too much longer with them. And also involving the seniors, we're having Senior Week, which leadership and ASB are going to be planning as well. And it's just going to be a few fun events that the seniors can be doing to say goodbye to each other and to the other students and perhaps their parents, such as like a mother, daughter, or tea or a son and father dealio with them. Next, I'd like to talk about the BSU dance this Friday. ASB has offered to help them set up and break down before and after the dance, which we think is a great way to make connections with the other clubs in the school. Our new executive ASB is Kieran Shrikant is the president, Jenna Herzog, the vice president, Maddie Maxwell is one of our treasurers. Roman Romanuk is one of our treasurers. Nubra Corolla is our secretary. And Anthony Heaney is our outside event activities commissioner, and I'm the new press secretary. And we've already had 2 meetings as a exec, and we're super excited for all the things we're going to plan. The first big thing we're doing is meeting with all of the people that are in the class ASB. So like I'll meet with all the press secretaries and Kieran will meet with all the presidents, and we're going to be telling them what we want this year to look like and how they can be effectively running their grades, and then coming to us for help if they need anything, and just having a really good year overall with them. Our leadership class is also working on Teacher Appreciation Week, which we're excited about. We spent our last week making door decks for the teachers with pirate puns because they love to laugh, so having that on the doors is really cool, and we're excited to be getting their little gifts and showing how much they mean to us. The junior class is also working on prom, which is going to be on June 2nd at Banyan's. The theme is a Venetian masquerade, which I know myself and my friends are very excited for, because that'll be cool pictures and a cool theme event. The leadership and ASB are also working on Anti-Stress Week, which was a Shark Tank project by 2 of our own, Kita and Kiara. And basically this whole week, they've been trying to help students distress before AP and SAT testing. So we had a yoga day and a tea day and a declutter your binder and backpack kind of day. And tomorrow is our last day of that, so we're all enjoying that and having a good time. And on Friday, we are having our happy birthday celebration, which is for Earth Day. And during lunch, the students are going to be going and cleaning up campus. And then we will celebrate at the end by having cupcakes. So that's a good way for the school to be coming together and helping each other and what's outside. And Link Crew is something that I will also be participating in next year, which I forgot to mention in the beginning. But Link Crew is going to be helping freshmen by having juniors and seniors join with them to be showing them the ropes while they're still new so that they're not feeling left out or kind of separated from the upperclassmen who've already done it before. And Link Crew is also providing little bags for the freshmen, and they're going to have a supply list because we know what they're going to need. And lots of our teachers are really gracious in telling them, like, oh, within the first week, we'll tell you what you need. And if they have the list that we've given to them from teachers and students' experience of what they want, then we think that that'll be a great way for them to figure out what they need by the second week of school. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and the last part of my report tonight is Assistant Principal Justin Bolstad. I've asked Justin to give a brief overview of a new program they've instituted at the high school to improve attendance rates. As you are aware, attendance rates are one of the indicators that the state has required of high schools as part of their index grade. And so Justin's been working with his team here at PHS on a program to improve student attendance. He did a presentation for our principal group a couple weeks ago, and so I thought it'd be nice for him to give a brief version of that presentation to inform the board.
This gets confusing for me because if it's part of your...
Yeah, this should have been up here.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't want you to sit here.
Yeah.
Actually, I could put her first. So.
Yeah.
I think we're ready.
All right, you're on.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me here this evening. I believe that we have good news for you.
Oh, yay.
You like good news? I know Ms. Smith
Rare.
likes good news. Okay. Like Dr. Maxwell said, we've implemented some new things with attendance this year, and we're seeing some success. And I'd love to share those successes with you and what it looks like, what our program looks like, and things we're hoping to do as we move forward. Take a few minutes here. As Dr. Maxwell said, the Washington State Improvement Framework is our accountability index, and attendance is a piece of that index now. And so it's very timely that this is very important and that we're working on this. And it's going to be a piece of our success moving forward. As you can see here, this is data from last year. Just to keep it simple, orange means we need to do a little bit more work. So we need to improve that, okay? And our regular attendance rate, as you can see there, has got a lot of orange in it. And I'm really confident that moving forward as the data from this year, as we look at that next year, I think we're gonna see some good colors. I think we're gonna see a lot of improvement. And I'm excited to get those numbers back because things that we're already doing are having a good impact.
Sorry for a question,
Yes.
just right off the bat. Can you define the attendance rate? Like, what is that?
Yes, and I'll talk about that as we
Okay.
go. Yeah, that's okay. But basically, it's the amount that students are here. We'll talk about chronic absenteeism, those numbers, and what that looks like too. So I'll
Okay.
hopefully get to that. And so we tell our students, you have to be here to get the good stuff. We have all these programs to offer: clubs, activities, athletics, this wide range of classes that we have. But it does them no good if they're not here to get it all, right? Okay, so that's the push. We got to get you here. We got to have you here to get the good stuff. And our data is showing that we're making an impact. And another quick thing that we tell our kids is be on time. That's easy. Do it every class and do it every day. Okay, real quick, real simple. But that's what we're looking for our students. And kids are getting that. It's sinking in. This is a report. We run an unexcused absence list every day at the end of the day. This was from last Tuesday before Skyward went down. And as you can see down at the bottom there, it says 24, which is ridiculously good. Just to give you some context to that, at the start of the year, we were easily 3 or 4 times higher. We were easily pushing 80 consistently. And it's not that they have an unexcused absence for the whole day, maybe a period here and there or half a day or whatever, but the system that we've implemented is working, and students and parents understand it. They're following, and now we're down to 24, which is really, really good. And that's pretty consistent, 20s and 30s now. And so a couple did you knows about attendance. First one, did you know that students should miss no more than 9 days to stay engaged and on track for graduation? This kind of thing helps with your question. Absences can be a sign that a student is losing interest, okay, that they're struggling with their schoolwork or facing other difficulties. This is a great one. That by 9th grade, that our attendance is a better predictor than our test scores. So we've got to get kids here, right? Okay, you scored well in 8th grade, that's fantastic. If you're not here in 9th grade, that has a bigger impact on you than what you did previously, okay? And lastly there, missing 10% is that chronic absenteeism, which is 18 days out of the year, which is 2 days a month, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that can add up and get going really fast on some of our students, and we'll look at that a little bit more as well. So for us, for attendance, a few things I just want to talk with you tonight is school focus, how we communicate with parents, and then the plan that we put in place, our multi-tiered system for improving our attendance. So for our focus, we're focusing this year on all absences. So we're looking at excused and unexcused. And I think, we'll talk about Skyward here in a second, but I think in the past, I think there was more of a focus on unexcused absences. If it was excused, that's fine, they called it in, no big deal. We're running after those kids that have those unexcused absences, those kids that, well, it's unexcused, they must be skipping. We have found two things. One, there's a bit of a privilege problem. Some students whose parents are not involved very much with school will not call and excuse them. And so those kids could get targeted more by us, as opposed to those parents who can play the system maybe and call in and excuse that absence, and the next one and the next one. And we're looking at total numbers, because if you're gone 30 days, I don't care if it's excused or unexcused, you're gone for 30 days. And that's something that we're working to change. And so we're looking at everything. So regardless if it's unexcused or excused, we're still trying to address that and go through this process with our students and families. And this is an example. So every month we'll pull Skyward Report, and when students are hitting that chronic, those higher numbers, we'll talk about our tiers later, but when they get into that tier 2, tier 3, they'll get flagged. And so we'll go through every month and look at our students' attendance. And those ones that have a high amount, we'll look at them and why they have so many days. This example here, this student here, had a doctor's note for these absences, so that's cleared, that's okay. Worked with that family, move forward, okay? Another part of our focus is an immediate response. We found that when we're dealing with unexcused absences and tardies, it helps to be on it right away. So if a student has an unexcused absence first period, they slept in, then whatever, went to Starbucks, and are late, they now know that there will be discipline immediately that day. And I think maybe previously it was a detention would get handed out, and it'd kind of be at the student's leisure. Get this done by Friday of next week or whatever. You could do it before school, after school lunch. What we're saying is, you were unexcused first period, you have lunch detention this lunch today. We're taking care of it right now. And so that's helping shrink those unexcused absences, because they know that the consequences are immediate. And our lunch detention, what it looks like, here names are blocked out of course, but we'll run lunch detention every day, like I said. We'll run it for unexcused absences, for tardies, for small discipline issues. Okay, and again, we're running it every day because it helps curb that behavior and helps our students make better choices, lets them know that we care about them, that we want them here, and that we're watching a lot. Okay, accountability for all. As we know, students that are over 18 don't technically have to be at school, and so you get that Ferris Bueller going a little bit where it's a sunny day and I think I might take the day off, and if I continue to do that, we have an issue. And so our handbook talks about having discipline taken care of before you walk at graduation. And so if we have seniors, students over 18 that are finding their way not here consistently, we'll bring them in, we'll have them sign this contract, we'll remind them that, hey, we want you to finish strong, we want you to walk at graduation. You got to take care of these things before that happens, though. Okay, that's just what this piece is here. Next is our communication with parents regarding attendance, and one thing we've really tried to push this year is information out to parents through Skyward, through newsletters, to let them know of the expectations and some of the changes that we've done and the follow through that we're trying to do as well. So with our parents, we're asking them to make it a priority. Okay. I want them to talk about the importance of showing up to school every day and making that the expectation. Okay? Tell them to maintain daily routines. Example, charge their cell phone in your room. It seems simple, but it's easy because now they're not up late staying on their cell phone, sleeping in the next morning because it's charging in the adult's room. Okay? We also try to ask them, and I know this is difficult, but try to take care of dental medical appointments outside of the school days. Okay, just another thing that we help try to keep in mind. Really push to help teens stay in school. So we're talking to parents about stay on top of their progress. Okay, make sure they're seeking help from teachers. Making sure they're not missing classes due to behavior issues. Okay, and that's another communication piece we're doing with them. And then a huge part of what we push back to parents, we start this in the middle school and get it going up through high school, is getting into meaningful activities after school, getting a club, getting a sport, something we know. All the data that we look at shows that if you are in a club, a sport, activity, whatever, your attendance is better, you're here more, your grades are better. Okay. Also, communicating back to the school. So we ask folks, we send our stuff out, but we want them to know our policies. We want them to know that absences need to be excused within those first 48 hours. Okay. Know that we want them to talk to teachers if they notice changes in their students' behavior, right? Parents know their kids better than anyone. If they notice something at home, let us know there's maybe something that we could communicate about. Also be checking their attendance at home through Skyward, making sure things aren't piling up. If they are, we're probably going to communicate with that parent anyway, but we ask them to be checking as well. And ask for help from the school. We've had this issue before where I brought a parent in who was struggling with getting their child to school, and basically had the conversation where let us be the bad guy. Put it on us, that we're forcing them to come to school, okay? Because the parent and child were having an issue with, parents having an issue getting the child to school, let us be the bad guy. We'll take the weight of that to get that student to school. And that's been helpful for us as well. So another piece that we ask for of our communication is that if a student is going to be gone, they know they're going to be on a vacation or they're taking a visit to a college, whatever that is, just to communicate with us, fill out this form, and let us know. That way teachers will go and teachers will sign off on this. They'll put the grade down. They'll be able to say, hey, work on this and this and this on those days that you're going to be gone so that the student's not getting too far behind. So with our parents, we tell them to make attendance a priority. Okay? Tell them to keep their students engaged. We work with them on that. And then also encourage their communication back to the school. Okay, those are three things that we're really pushing back for our families. Next piece is our multi-tiered system of supports for our students. And we want everyone, starts off at the beginning of the year, we'd love to keep everyone there. Throughout the year is our tier 1, and that's where students are 0 to 9 absences, okay? Less than a day a month. As the year goes on, students will float up to that tier 2, where they're going to start missing 10 to 17 days. They're at risk. If they're missing 2 days a month, all of a sudden we've missed that much school if we put all that together. And that's where we start reaching out to kids, and we'll look at some of that. And then tier 3 is those students that are chronically absent. They're missing 18 days or more a year, two or more days a month. Okay, those are kids that need a lot of intervention. And so what we do with that is for those tier 1 students, they're engaged, right? They have positive relationships with their peers, with the adults in the building. They understand the importance of being here, okay? And we want to keep everyone there, and if people float out of that tier, we want to get them back into that tier 1. Or at tier 2, that's where we're beginning to make some personalized outreach with our students and their parents. So we're making those communications, we're bringing kids in and having conversations with them, we're sending letters home to parents, phone calls are going home, all that stuff. We're trying to build that bridge with families. If we get to tier 3, that's where we need to work together with families to get students back attending regularly, because they've slipped too far, and we've got a lot of interventions we've got to put in place to get them back and on track. Because as you can probably imagine, if they're not at school, their grades aren't very good, and they're probably not passing their classes. So our tier 2 supports, what we do, an example is we'll documentation of initial absences. So the letter that we send home to parents, okay, looks like this. Okay, so we'll send that home, letting them know that, because sometimes parents won't even realize that a student has missed so many absences. So we'll put every absence that they've missed down, whether it's 12 or whatever, put those down, and then say, hey, if we're going to continue to be absent as a school, we may require a doctor's note or a note from a medical professional, something like that. Okay. Besides the initial absences, we'll do an attendance plan with students. Okay. And with that, we're bringing students in, we're having conversations with them, we're saying, give us 3 things that you can do to improve your attendance. We know it's an issue, we're seeing it, it's floating, you're floating up, you're on our radar. What are you gonna do to help improve that? Whether that's getting off your phone earlier, whether that's setting a different alarm, whether it's working with a friend to make sure you're catching the bus together at the same time. Whatever it is, we're looking for 3 things that they can commit to help improve their attendance, okay? Sometimes even just being in the room with us, having that conversation, knowing that we know that their attendance isn't great, will help get them back on track. Okay, for Tier 3 supports, I'll show you our truancy cover letter, and we'll talk about truancy a little bit more here in a second, but this is basically just a check-off sheet of what we've done and what we're doing. So if we've sent letters home, communication with parents, attendance plan, whether we file a Beckham petition, all that information, we just keep that on track for every student that we're dealing with that gets to that Tier 3 level. Okay. Another support besides the truancy, the cover letter, is the Community Truancy Board. That's new this year for us, and that has been fantastic. That's made up of district staff. So for us right now, we have, when we run that, which is every 2 weeks, we have staff from the middle school, admin and counselors, and then also from the high school. Dr. Kramer's on that. We have Whitman County Truancy's on that, and then also we have, it's a community board, so then we have some community members as well. And I had not seen it before, been a part of it before, and I'm really, I'm proud that we're doing it, and I'm excited of the work that it's doing for us. I think kids are always, of course, nervous to come in. Parents are invited to come with. But when they come in, it's pretty nervous. They're a little bit, wow, it's like this, right? And we're all there for the student, but we're all there saying, what can we do to help get you here more? And what things can we put in place? And everyone that I've been at by the end, usually walking out with a smile, things are going well, we've got a plan in place to help that student do better to get to school. So this has been a really good intervention. This is in place instead of, the truancy board is in place instead of just filing paperwork and sending the student right to truancy court. So we're that intervention between what hasn't been working at school and going straight to court. Okay. And here's just an example of the top half of our form that we use. We'll have the student's name because it's community members. They don't know all the kids and what we're going through. So we'll, as you can see, we've got the student name. We'll do their attendance information, academically how they're doing. If there's other things going on in their life that we maybe need to know about that we can discuss. Then again, if they're special education or 504, if they've taken the warning assessment, and then what time we're going to meet. The second half here, I've got names blacked out here, is previous students that we've had come through. And we go back and we review those students every time and how they're doing and how their program is going. And one of those students, can't put that picture up of that student, but privacy stuff. But one student that I want to talk about though, we've had a lot of successes with the Community Truancy Board, but one just stands out to me and will probably stand on me forever because it's been so fantastic. Student who is not a privileged kid. We were not getting feedback from parents. Student got sick in about November, December, and then decided to just stop coming to school basically. And those tier 2 interventions that we tried are not working. So we get to the truancy board meeting. Student comes without their parent, and there's tears because it's nerve-wracking and it's a big deal. But student quickly understands that we're here to support you and help you, and what can we do to get you here to school. At that time, that board meeting was on the 19th of January. Student is failing 5 of 6 classes and not attending school. Since that meeting, that student walks out of here with like, yeah, I can do this. You're here to support me. We can make this work. Okay. Since January 19th, student has missed 2 days of school and has done a 180 on their grades. So is now passing 5 of 6 classes. And every time I see that student is proud that we're proud of them. So I get a high five and a smile, and I get yeah, good, I'm glad you're here again today, you know, and that's fantastic. And so that just shows me the stuff that we're doing is working and it's having an impact on our students, and I love that part. That's fantastic. Okay. So for our school supports here, We know that if we monitor our data frequently, we can catch those students early. Okay. We know that we can continue to define and teach our expectations to our students, and it's huge to have that positive engagement with our kids, make them want to be here, know that we care about them. That student that walked out of here that was failing 5 of 6 classes walked out of here knowing that I've got a group of people that are going to support me and help me, because there really isn't anyone else around that student that was doing that. Okay. And then also just that personalized outreach, that tier 2 stuff where we're bringing kids in and getting a plan together with them and going that route. And we know when we do those things that we get better attendance and we have lower chronic absenteeism, which is what we're pushing for, which is what's going to feed back to that first slide of getting that orange back up to blue, right? Okay, that's what we're pushing for. And when we do good things, we have to be excited about our good things. And so here's a group of students. At times we'll go around and I'll walk into a classroom and I'll kind of grab the teacher and I'll say, is everybody here today? Yeah. Is everybody on time? Yes. Donuts for everybody. Right? Okay? Because we're trying to push that we want them here on time. It's a big deal. It's a quick 2-minute reward that we can do for kids, especially in the springtime, to help get them, keep them to school, motivate them to be there. Okay?
Sugar nuts.
Because it comes back down to, we want them to be on time, we want them to do it for every class, and we want them to do it every day. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, what is an attendance rate?
So that didn't get you. Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, our attendance rate is the numbers that we're having where, I look at it as the chronic absenteeism. And so it's the students that are not hitting that are missing more than 9 days a year.
So
the rate of those students, so it's the amount of students, they're looking at the amount of students that are over that are missing more than 9 days. That's that percentage.
So 83% of our students.
are missing fewer than 9 days
days.
a year.
Yes,
That's,
yes.
I mean, it's a
Sorry,
weird, you
yeah.
have to think
You gotta
backwards
think
about it.
backwards.
And so, if that key number 9 is actually 9 times 6, because there's 6 I guess what I'm wondering is, what if you skip PE
Good question.
every day?
Gotcha.
Does, you have to
Yes.
skip it 6 times to then be absent
Nobody
once?
skips PE every day.
No, I'm just,
No, just teasing. So that's a really good question. And so attendance is counted, it's a half day. If you miss a half a day, that counts as a full day.
okay,
So those other things, that skip in a class here and there,
we'll catch up with you.
we will catch up with you for doing that.
Okay,
But it counts as you have to miss a half day to a full day for it to count as a full absence for you. That's a good question.
okay.
Yes.
Actually, the definition is very similar, it's changed. It's a number of periods per day. So if you're 6 periods, if you miss more than half of that, that's
Right.
considered.
Yes.
And it's
Okay.
not cumulative.
So
it
if we
doesn't-
had a 7-period day, it would be 4.
Right.
But because we're 6, it's 3. So, yeah, that's interesting. So the attendance rate is the percent of our student population who are still in the Tier 1 zone,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. And 83 still feels pretty good, but as far as the state is concerned, it's not good enough.
yeah.
But the
That'd
stuff
be
that we're
overnight.
seeing now, I think it's pushing. It's going to be.
And I think that, and another factor in that attendance rate that's different than in the past. In the past, we had to report unexcused absence. We still have to report unexcused absence, but the difference is now they want to look overall, excused and unexcused. So that's a different indicator
Yeah.
than what we've had in the past. And some of the pieces that we're finding out through this whole process of truancy board, and Justin and Rhea have taken this on. I mean, they jumped in and said, we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. They've done it incredibly well. Also developing that relationship with kids and recognizing how important that is related to attendance. But saying, you know what, you might have a doctor's note for this. It still concerns me that you're missing. and going back and having that conversation, because we know that the habits of school attendance are really well developed by grade 4. So we sometimes are having to do intervention at grade 9 with challenges that began in grade 4. So now the work, that's why Justin shared their work with our administrative team, is now we're looking at how are we going to replicate some of this work at elementary and middle school.
Sorry, go ahead.
I might suggest, actually, with this information about the tiers, I don't know if those numbers are based on statistical thresholds for anything, but actually getting out even to at the PTA level and talking about these attendance tiers and how that impacts the performance of our district as a whole, because the PTAs and boosters have such tremendous pride in the district, and they are our key kind of messengers who could be out there and really leading the way on some of these optional things like, let's not schedule our kids' dentist appointment during school or whatever, because we want to have the best attendance rate we can have. It's a matter of pride. It's no longer a choice to just come or not come. We really want to move together as a community to improve this.
And the one thing that you probably didn't notice that I did on the list of the unexcused absence, the day with 24 instances, there were no ninth graders on that. And what their focus has been ninth grade, because Justin and Rhea were new here with the ninth graders. So they have been consistent with their communication with them. And then at about semester, we had the conversation, okay, now let's reach to 10th grade. Let's have Peggy do personalized phone calling to 10th grade, because so trying to stretch that impact. And next year we know that they'll have the ninth graders again. And then our current ninth graders will be 10th graders. So we'll have a critical mass that have had the same approach.
Yeah, we'll have that kind of that foundation laid for the majority of the students, and just be doing, instead of, kind of feels like 4 grades right now, we'll just have one new grade coming in to feed that. And we mentioned Rhea. Rhea is Rhea Courier, who's our Dean of Students, who is phenomenal. She's fantastic. She's wonderful at her job and makes us all look really good.
Thank you for giving this presentation. It's really informative. I learned a lot. I was curious with the county truancy board. I'm really interested in that concept. And so this is the first year that it's been implemented. And so what has it done to our referral rates to truancy court? I mean, I'm not sure what they were beforehand. But
that's a great question. And having not been here before, I don't know. I could find that and see what it was previously, last year or years past. I just my feel is that we're not referring very many to court because of this, because we have the majority of the kids that come in. It's not perfect. We've referred kids. When we refer kids, I end up going to court and I say my piece about the student and still try to keep it positive. But yet, hey, we've done all these things, and it's still not working now. We need some more help from the courts, and we've been getting that support, which has been great too. So even for the students that have gotten all the way to having to attend truancy court, that has, nobody really wants to go to juvenile detention, and so that works too. We would much rather do it earlier, but that's been working as well. And so how many numbers is that compared to years past? I don't know, but I do know that the intervention of truancy board is having a big impact of saving kids from having to go, and families from having to go to court.
So what about, as far as the total number of people referred to the county truancy board, what percentage of those people get referred to
they go on
the truancy court
to
eventually?
Truancy court? Let me think how many times.
It's totally rough.
No, it's rough. It's rough. But I've been to truancy court, I believe 4 or 5 times this year, for no more than 2 students. So at the most, we've had 10 students, which is high. I'd say more like 7 or 8. And we've had, you saw the list of students there, and that was just one page of a couple page sheets. So of that, if that's 15 kids a page, of 30, we're having
45, 60.
45, yeah.
So,
but here's another piece. Justin has attended court this year on students that were court-ordered last year. So some of his 10
and that's true.
Were kids who were court-ordered last year and not under that expectation of the community truancy board. So
So
Yeah.
last year with these students, I mean, once they had gotten to the level, and I'm just trying to kind of understand, once they'd have gotten to the level of the county board, they would have been referred to the
Yes,
truancy
they would have
court.
already
So-
gone
They
to
would have just
court.
gone straight in.
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
they would have-
Yeah, that's the shift, is that this year they stop at community truancy board before they would go to court.
That's cool.
And that's a
Those
good
rates are
point,
awesome.
because,
It's really good.
because those students are still, are here at school that were on, this is kind of, I don't want to make this too messy of a process, but students, some of the students that I've attended truancy court for were ordered from last year, but they're still students here, so I'm still going to support them, but they didn't have the opportunity to come to community truancy board with us. So the number of students that were ours that have gone through our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, come to truancy board is more like, I think we're like a 3.
Maybe,
Maybe 3.
yeah.
Really
So
good.
it's really, so it's actually better than,
And we
Yeah.
have had one student from another district come to community
Yes.
truancy board. We are one of 2 districts in our county that are required to have it because of the size of our
Size of our
school. And so they needed this particular school wanted to try this student through a community truancy board, and we actually had room on our agenda, so we were able to take that student. I wasn't able to be at that meeting, but and unfortunately, that student ended up going to court, but really trying to look holistically at who are all of our kids, you know, and if we're finding some success in trying, but again, with that particular student, we didn't have a relationship with them. One of the pieces with community truancy board is that I have seen the kids at school, and they always want to talk to me and tell me about their attendance. It's just been a really positive thing, and some truancy boards are, so we put the table in a square and we all sit around the table, and in some truancy boards, it really is this, like you're on trial kind of thing. And we're not interested in having that kind of a environment. We want it to be an environment where we come in and we're welcoming the conversation.
Support group type
Mhm.
situation.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
No, I really love that
Yeah.
concept.
And we try to schedule as many as 3. We've done more than that. We've had like
We have.
4. But with about the idea that we'll spend a half an hour on or with each student. So we might meet with them for about 20 minutes or so, then it gives us 10 minutes to prepare for the next student. That kind of a working through kids. But we haven't had a negative experience that was really, you know, in the end, we've always ended up, we've sometimes had to talk to people about the process and why we're here and what that prevents. And it's been great.
it's been great. And like we said earlier, it's a little bit intimidating to come into that group of people, but they feel that wraparound that we just want to support you. We just want to get you.
And we have 2 community members, Carrie
Mhm.
Walsborn and Carl Johansson, and they are both very invested in the youth in our community and come with just problem solving, want it to be supportive,
Yep.
and can provide different insights to resources in our community than what we would typically be able to provide. So
Yeah,
that part's
they're a
been
great
great.
addition to that, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Justin?
Yeah, if the pattern for truancy starts in 4th grade, you said you're trying to get involved with the elementary school.
Yeah.
At what point do parents become a focus rather than a student? Or is it always a student through the parents, or the parents indirectly through the student, or?
That's a good question, and it kind of almost depends on the situation. But we try to get both. We want to get everyone involved because we feel like if we can get the parents on board with us, they're going to help support us get that student there. But at times, though, it is just with one example, we're working with just a student, and it's working really well. But we want parents involved as much as possible.
So we've seen that more where community truancy board is an expectation, particularly for 7th grade on up.
Mhm.
We wouldn't, with elementary students, they still go through the traditional court system. So what we've noticed at that level is that typically the judge is having that conversation with the parents.
Mhm.
Because if we were to identify a barrier, it's typically, it's not in the child's control.
Right.
And so the judge will hold the family accountable.
Okay.
Yeah, and that requires a lot of dedication and work on behalf of the principal and the counselor to get to that point where the judge is saying, no, you need to bring your kid out to school.
Have you found that similar, that fourth grade kind of cutoff thing to do for homework? Study patterns, and that sort of thing?
Well, we don't see the same kind of impact as attendance, and attendance is the most directly related to student achievement. Homework completion, depending on the student, and the expectations.
Well, I'm just saying
yeah.
that, it's so hard for some students, my children particularly, to finally realize they get to high school, okay, no messing around. All of a sudden, this is what you've got to do. And sometimes it's not reinforced as much in the middle school, and so I would like to think that
There's a lot of different theory on homework and
Yeah.
on repeated practice and some of those kinds of things, and I think
they're
that
just study habits, I guess, more than
yes,
anything.
study habits and organization.
Yeah,
We know that those and
organization,
that's executive function, and that takes repeated practice. And Justin knows we have kids that come to 9th grade that you're like, whoa, didn't anybody ever work with them on organization? Yeah, all through middle school somebody did. So that
Same
really
middle
is.
school too, we think, didn't anybody at the elementary school work with these kids?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's always been something we've
Yeah.
focused on.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was related. but
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks
Yep.
very much.
You're a rock star, Justin.
Thank you.
Yeah. The bomb.
So it's food for thought for our middle school and elementary. So we're going to take a look at how we
Yeah.
could replicate this to some
Yeah.
degree appropriately at those grade levels. So
Okay.
And I
The
like
donuts will do it.
Donuts will do it. The donuts seem to work pretty well.
I like the idea of involving the PTA and the PTO in the conversation,
Yeah.
because sometimes you can reverse the parent,
Yep.
just peer pressure.
Yes.
yeah,
Well, and
Yeah, and
another,
that's what we
Because
need to do with transportation
There's
as
peer
well.
pressure at the
Yeah.
parent level as well.
there's a requirement now that we share the benefits of regular school attendance with all families at beginning at elementary. And so that guidance from OSPI did not come out to us until, I don't know, maybe Justin remembers, but it was later in
It was
the
late.
fall. And but we still are required to provide that. So we mass emailed that information. But I think that there's a lot of different things that we'll be able to do now this year, now that the state has kind of outlined that guidance, but that it really, attendance is important, and there are planned absences, and we know that those occur. But have we considered how we might work around that rather than being absent? That's school attendance is, like you saw, is the most critical, one of the most critical factors in determining high school graduation. And so let's start on that early. And so we're having conversations about what we might name our campaign and some of those kinds of things around this work. A lot of school districts have done very good work around this, and we've been fortunate to benefit from, there's lots of resources through OSPI on school attendance. So that's part of our work. But Justin has been leading the way, and we so appreciate that.
Yeah, I think in particular, the information about how critical the actual numbers, it's unreasonable to assume that a student would have perfect attendance. We know that there are things that come up, but if we could communicate how important it is not to cross a certain threshold, then a parent could say, well, if you manage to keep yourself well all year and demonstrate that you have such fantastic attendance that you're in no danger of crossing this tier, then we could talk about maybe a college visit or whatever, but it really kind of depends on how your attendance is. Okay, the next portion of our agenda is the visitors section, and I'm guessing that we have no visitors who wish to. Okay,
No.
I'm going to skip that part then and move along to the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes, a budget status report, warrants, personnel report, professional and personal services contracts, an overnight field trip request, ASB fundraisers, transfer requests, and a new ASB club. And I would now entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented, and although there is not really a reason to discuss the consent agenda, I would like to say I am thrilled to see a school newspaper at Pullman High School after all these many years. to
Yeah, it'll
bring-
be digital, right?
It looks like that, but still,
Yeah, it'll be
journalism
digital.
is
Yeah.
great. So
Who was the mentor on that? Do we have a?
Ms. Stegner.
Stigma.
Okay,
Yeah, so that is so exciting. I can't wait to see it.
I second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we move on to our one action item tonight, which is the elementary attendance boundaries, presented by Executive Director of Operations Joe Thornton.
And Roberta Kramer, because I wasn't even supposed to be here, but
Oh,
the scouts I was working with got done sooner than
I see. Okay, well, you are on here. That's why I'm.
Okay, so since we were here at the last board meeting and shared the proposal, there have been no adjustments to that proposal. So just as we had presented to you, that's what we have before you this evening for action.
Does anyone have any additional questions that didn't come up
Did you
earlier?
get any feedback? I didn't get any, I hadn't.
Has the district gotten any feedback?
No,
Additional feedback?
we have received nothing.
Okay.
Oh, Joe's got something. I just missed.
Shannon and I met with parents, a couple yesterday, and they didn't have any questions. They didn't have any concerns. They admitted that they've been out of the loop, and they just wanted to be in the loop, and they were very understanding. So.
Great.
So I did have one question. It was brought up to me by someone in the city planning office, basically, that the Terraview, the Terraview Road that goes to Kamiah and dead ends currently may never be looped around to Greyhound Way / Larry Street, whatever road that is. What sort of implications would that have for walkability and the transit plan if that doesn't happen?
My understanding is that looped road was a requirement
Yep.
of the permit, for the conditional use
Because
permit
of
for that
Fire,
subdivision.
isn't it? Yeah.
So now, that being said, the city of Pullman has a recent history of requiring a developer to submit something and then down the road saying, oh, okay, you don't have to do that. I think it's in the plans. I would anticipate it's going to be completed.
Okay.
They made a big deal
Yep.
out of, for us to get our conditional use permit for a school on that site, that there be 2 accesses.
Okay. But if it doesn't happen, or if it happens in the distant future, as far as walkability, especially the constituent I spoke with lived at the very end in that neighborhood, and I forget the road, but it's right as the dead end. I mean, you can basically see the new school from it, but you can't. It's like 4 miles or something to get
I think the
around.
first walkable route is actually going to be for kids coming down Canyon View to Terra.
Yep,
Okay.
Yeah.
that'll probably be the Canyon View would be the walk.
So we can just build a trail, or the city
We
would
wouldn't,
help us, or
it'll be a sidewalk all the way down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you very
But
much.
we'll have a gravel road out in the middle of the field then.
Well, no, I just wanted, it was brought late in the game for sure. I ran into this person at Taco Bell randomly, and so it was,
And it's not really a boundary issue.
well, it's the plan of the walkability of the boundaries, which would be in question, because the mile radius falls apart when you're 100 yards from the school, but it's like 3 miles to get to the school, and you have to walk around.
Still not 3 miles.
I mean, according to this person, I didn't clock it myself, But yeah, I mean, I can only take them at their word. They live there, you know. so
Yeah.
it's-
I move approval of the elementary attendance boundaries.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the elementary attendance zone revisions as proposed by the committee to take effect in the 2019-2020 school year. Is there any further discussion? Yes?
I've also met with some constituents, but I've simply outlined the importance of student safety, the boundaries, in terms of highway traffic, shorter times on the bus, which you alluded to last meeting, which is number 2. And then there is an appeal process in place for those parents that would like to appeal the decision to move to another school. So really there's mechanisms and there's safety involved in what we're doing tonight. So I just there's options. And I think it's important when you talk to constituents to get those 3 points across, why these boundaries are so important. Especially, I think I was impressed by the shorter time on the school buses, like from 45 minutes down to 15 minutes.
Yeah, my only concern is if those students choice into another school, that parents understand that it is a parent transport, that we will not be running a bus route to pick them up.
Good point, because I think that's what we need to get across to constituents that are somehow out of the loop, so to speak, but they come in after the fact, that they be made aware of that. So if we can kind of have that really clarified for them. So, and the committee did a great job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That should be number 1, and then the other 3 follow the suit. So.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? All right, the elementary attendance boundaries are approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Next,
Roberta.
Roberta, don't sit down.
I know I had to go.
Oh, okay. Next, we move on to our discussion items. The first discussion item this evening is Policy 2409, Credit for Competency/Proficiency.
Okay, as we shared in the work session, we are making significant changes to 2409 that used to be a just competency credit for world languages, and so we've expanded that. We have included all of those content areas in the proposed policy and included the middle school courses and then AP exams, SAT, ACT cut scores, directed athletics, and state assessments. And there are parameters that are included. Based on the feedback from Board of Directors at the work session, I did not make the change from eared to earned. I have since done that as about 5:45 today. So that has changed, although I kind of like the concept of an eared grade.
That means they're listening, right?
It is not any longer appropriate to pull on a kid's ear. I totally remember my 5th and 6th grade teacher doing that, who I still admire to this day. So that is Policy 2409. I think the greatest celebration in this policy is more opportunity for kids than what we've had before. And we know with the shift to 24 credits that we have to provide more opportunity. And the high school administrators and counselors have been great advocates in working to develop this and expand those opportunities for kids. And I think that this really speaks to we've got a lot of needs of our kids, and we need to have more opportunity for them related to gaining credit. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have considered since. We talked about it at the board work session.
Was that the only change, the eared earned?
Yes,
Since the board
well,
work session?
and up above, and I indicated that, I adjusted the language in the paragraph to say that the Pullman School District Board of Directors allows students to receive high school credit based on satisfactory demonstration of competency instead of competency testing for, so I've struck that since. That was based on feedback from the board.
Any other questions? No. I think, just to echo your point, Roberta, about what this work does for students, in particular the directed athletics piece, is an enhancement over the current arrangement. You had to be a varsity athlete, which if you play a sport like basketball that only has an 11-member team or something like that, it would be really hard. And so I think the idea that you're doing directed athletics is going to really help a lot of students.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that work.
And being very public about that.
Yes.
You know, and a piece to all of this is, you know, gaining feedback from our PE and health teachers, and having them have input to the process. And so we're still working on the procedure related to this policy, and then the handbook that will go for related specifically to directed athletics. And that's going to be a large handbook because we've got to be clear with our expectations for everyone.
It is. And those, although we don't normally review policies, I would like us to just look at those because I think as many eyes.
The procedures.
Yeah, excuse me. Procedures.
Yeah, and I will also make the handbook available. We're still drafting some of both those pieces out, but when we feel like they're in better form, we will bring those directly to the board.
Would you imagine the handbook being maybe over the summer, I would think? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're close. We're actually close now.
Close. Okay.
But right now, that's 19 pages long. So.
And this is the one that's going to be like the middle, it's going to be through, from middle school through?
Not for directed athletics.
Okay.
Directed athletics are only available to students in 10th, 11th, or 12th grades.
Okay.
But the handbooks, we're
But the
modeling
handbook.
the handbook of the LMS and PHS
Yeah,
together
so they're
where
gonna be
appropriate.
Comparable.
Yeah, it'll be comparable. So
Yeah.
Which
they
will be
actually have
so
a draft
helpful.
done. We're doing some refining. The other piece we might have to do is an addendum to discipline because new discipline rules will most likely
keep
come
on
out in
coming
June,
forever.
July, or
Sure.
August,
Sure.
or
September.
Yeah.
So,
But the language will be comparable. So
yes,
that
and it'll be
once you
organized the
understand
same
one, you
way.
can understand the other one. Perfect.
So
Yeah.
that project's coming.
Yeah. And the directed athletics will be a separate handbook because that is, that won't be,
sure.
we won't have a lot of students, but we will have some. And so we want to be very clear with how it all works.
So,
Perfect.
Yeah. And fortunately, we have districts that have gone before us.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, let's move on to policy 2410, graduation requirements.
Okay, policy 2410 has not changed significantly. I did not include the procedure related to that tonight. In fact, I met with Kelly Glaze, the counselor that one of our school counselors is here at the high school, and she and I had a lot of conversation about that today, and so we're going to be bringing that back to you. That one of the things that I did notice in 2410 that I did not catch the last time is that on page 4, under 4.0,
I'll bring it up. Hold on. Page what?
4,
This is page 4.
yeah, go down a little bit to 4.0 in the blue. Okay, I have repeated that at the very end of the policy on page 6.
I noticed that too, and that's why I was thinking a clean copy might help to show what has happened.
Really
Yeah.
important to you.
It must have been, yeah. Yeah, and I just somehow slept right through noticing that. So it's amazing what you find out when you look more, I've looked at this 1,000 times. So I'll strike that the second time. It will only appear once. And I have also, based on feedback from the board of directors, I did more checking around career choices. That was approved on January 14th, 2015 by the board of directors. And I'll work with Shannon on how we might include that date in the policy itself. And then in respect to the graduation requirements and the culminating project, On January 28th, 2015, what I found in the minutes is that on that date, there was a work session on new graduation requirements, and then there was action right after that at that board meeting on 2410. What I believe happened is that 2410, the proposed changes to 2410 made no suggested changes to culminating project because the district had decided not to remove that. And so if you want to go back into time, we would have to look at when 2410 added the culminating project, and my guess is that was about in 2008. I had to think about the number, because I think it was about that time was when that graduation requirement was put in by the state. And then it was removed just prior to the, it was removed in the legislature of 2014, because then they told the class of 2015, you don't have to do a culminating project unless your district chose to keep that. So that's my guess. I have not tracked that all the way back to 2008, but I'm happy to do that should that be a wish of the board.
Well, you have the disadvantage of you were not here
Yes.
at that time. And I actually went back and reviewed these minutes too, because I was trying to figure out what happened. And so I studied it. I don't know if Bob did or Joe did, but basically, here's my memory of it just for background of those of you making decision. We were presented with a CTE proposal of career choices as a CTE course framework, and it was unanimously approved by the board. When I approved that, I understood that a CTE is a CTE. So I thought that was not really changing anybody's big picture, because they would still have to take one full credit of CTE, and if half of a credit of that was this career choices, oh well. So I didn't really object to it when it was proposed that way. It was approved unanimously. Then later, when we reviewed 2410, it says in the minutes, Allison Muntrotolo asked for clarification regarding the culinary project and occupational ed credits. Dr. Maxwell will look over, perhaps combine into one category. So that's why we ended up having this work session that kind of went over this to explain to me how they really couldn't do that after all, even though I had understood it that way when I voted for it, that if you did fold that half a credit into CTE, it would just decimate your CTE programs so much that the board preferred to keep it as a separate thing. So then when we approved changes to 2410, there was nothing stated on 2410 about career choices being a credit or a requirement at that time. Everything appeared exactly as it had before, and if you look in our existing 2410, nowhere in there does it say that career choices is a requirement. So we do have it on record that we approved it as something that we would implement, but we evidently didn't put it into 2410 before. So if we meant to do that, we screwed up.
So what I read in the board minutes from January 14th, 2015 is beginning in the 2015-16 school year, the Career Choices CTE course would be offered as an elective for seniors, and then beginning in the 2018-19 school year, the Career Choices CTE course would be required for all seniors.
Yes.
So as I read that, it's a requirement that was established on that date.
No, your reading of it is absolutely
Okay.
correct. But however, it was never written into policy 2410 graduation requirements.
It didn't get into the,
And so
Document.
that's
Okay.
why
Oh, so then that didn't move into
That didn't move
2410
into
on
it has
that,
never
at that next
appeared in
meeting.
our graduation requirements. It's
Okay.
always just said culminating project, half a credit. But it never identified a specific course. So in making this change, we would be requiring students to take this specific course, which we did approve back in 2015. So I'm fine with that, even though I'm saying the only reason I approved it is because I had understood something differently.
Okay.
And it was
Okay.
that students wouldn't, that if it was CTE, it would count toward their CTE. And it was later, after we approved that it was explained, no, it actually won't count toward their CTE.
So is this something that needs to be rediscussed, or is this something that's in it and we just need to add it?
May I make a point of clarification, or request a point of clarification,
Yeah.
rather? So are there credit requirements, 1.5 credits, 0.5 being a culminating project and 1 being CTE? Or is it one whole credit that is the combination of the CTE and the culminating project?
Well, that's exactly the issue.
Okay, so that's, okay, I'm confused for good reason. then.
Yes, because when I voted, when I cast my yes vote in favor of saying that this would be a requirement at the request of the district, because the original problem was we required this culminating project, we grant a credit for it, but we weren't funding it. We were not paying teachers to actually teach this, and so we needed to solve that problem. So the solution to that problem was to create this course, Career Choices, and I was fine with that. I just thought that it was presented as a CTE course, so I assumed if it's a CTE course that it would count toward the 1 credit that is required in your CTE, because why wouldn't it if it's a CTE course? And it was only after we approved it unanimously that it was explained to me, oh no, it can't count toward that because it would hurt CTE, which also makes sense.
So it's an additional requirement?
It's an additional
requirement.
requirement.
Right,
So
which then reduced the number of elective options. So that's where the number of credits never changed, but otherwise students would have had 4 credits of elective options. And now with this, they have 3.5, with the other half being career choices.
So let me get this straight. There's a new career choices class that we folded this project into. Is that correct? So it's now part of the course?
For next school year.
For next school year. And that course is now going to be worth 1.5 credits?
No.
If
No.
they,
0.5.
.5.
so the whole course is only worth 0.5, and then they have to take
only
another
a
CTE
semester.
course to do that.
Yeah.
So we're cheating them of an
I'm not
elective,
sure.
basically.
Okay.
We're cheating them of half a credit of elective.
Correct. That's
Well,
not cheating.
We're
but yeah.
reducing the
Taking-
number of
taking
elective
away.
credits,
Yeah,
yes.
and that's my
Yeah.
objection to it right there, is that
Mhm.
there are so few electives as it is.
That was my original concern, to be
Yeah.
honest, was that it just seemed like one more thing, and the statement, at least in the document, was unclear as to what it, and I did go and review the actual project statement that was on the counseling site, and it makes more sense. I was going to say we need to link to that probably in the policy down at the bottom. I would like a link directly to the project for that section.
The only risk that you run is that link, that when you link, that link can change over time. That does not have to stay the same. So you need to know that
To update the policy. with
a
the-
link to in a policy, you run some risk of that policy changing without you knowing it because the link changed. Linking it in the procedure,
Yeah.
that's more appropriate or
Because I think
differently
the
appropriate, I would
procedure
say.
will be more specific on, it will
Yes.
be as specific as the policy was prior to this.
Yes.
Where do we want the parents to go when they need to learn about graduation requirements? Do we
The
want them to go to the
procedure.
procedure, the policy, or the handbook?
No,
Well, this
they
is
need to
another
go to the
question I
procedure.
have, because you're removing the course equivalency table in here that tells you which courses satisfy which requirements. And I couldn't find it readily available in the handbook.
But what I also shared with you is that that course equivalency table is going to go into the procedure.
Okay, I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure, so
Yeah.
the procedure is where we're sending the parents when they say, hey, about
Yeah.
graduation.
Yeah.
And this
And-
is defining the procedure.
Right, and also, this gets reiterated in a lot of documents, okay? So one of our goals in this entire process is for all of that to be consistent, so that it is in the handbook, so that it, or in the guidebook for courses, so that, and right now, my guess is that that is consistently reflected in that, but we're going to like quadruple check.
Okay.
Because we want those things to be consistent so that I know when I open it up that Ethan needs to have this many credits. And if he's trying to give me a line about, actually, Mom, I don't need to do that my
exactly
junior
right.
year, I can say, no, actually, it says right here, and this is where you have to follow. So you can make up your own story, but this is what I'm going to go off of.
That's exactly what I want to happen.
Yes.
So, because it's already, we're confused by it. And so I
Well,
can only imagine someone
right.
trying to understand
Right,
this from.
and I'm an educator, and I still have you still have kids that will try to influence your thinking that way. So we have to have a consistent
Write it down.
location for that, for every situation. The other piece is that, remember, the career choices isn't just, that content is not just the culminating project.
Correct.
In addition is that financial literacy component, which we've talked about, that we know other districts aren't doing, but we do have an obligation to do that. We're expected to do that from the state. We also have some job readiness components that aren't addressed, other places in the curriculum that are included in that as well.
So you think that it satisfies enough state requirements to justify half a credit in addition?
Well, I believe so, but I am at the service
Oh,
of
your
you.
opinion,
So,
you know,
yeah,
'cause I mean,
yes, I do believe that it includes those components. I understand the challenge of it is that it reduces the number of elective
And
choices.
I will point out for a historical view, the number of electives have been reduced by the state mandates. And if you look at the chart,
Yes, that's
for an example of social, well,
Yeah.
let's go up to mathematics. Okay, so there's some additional requirements. Social studies, they included .5 civics, which was mandated, which caused us then to have to adjust. Also, world languages was now counted as basically a mandate. So you went from 6.5 electives to 3.5. And really, in my opinion, it's because the state is now mandating, and that's why we had to make some adjustments in our course offerings. So it's been, our electives have been reduced by mandates from the state.
Right, by increasing the math and the science credit.
The math
number
and
of
science
those.
credits
Yeah.
increased. We had to have .5 civics. We also had to now take world languages, which were an elective, are now Common Core
Yes.
course for most students, not all. So automatically, the number of true electives has been greatly reduced.
At the
And
same,
going from
yeah,
23 credits to
Exactly.
24 credits.
yeah, that's another piece.
And for a college-bound student, they're going to take 4 years of mathematics. They're going to take as much foreign language as they can take. So in reality, they're down to no electives unless they do zero-hour
0 hour.
orchestra.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Yeah,
And I'll give you, an example. My daughter's looking at some colleges which require 4 years language. She does 0 period and has done 0 period forever.
yeah.
Of course, she also does orchestra. So she has very little room in her schedule for even an elective.
So given that limited availability and given that the number of electives have gone from 6 to 3, I mean, that .5 seems to be ever more valuable, a time slot, you know, and so, I mean, do you think the course material justifies the cost in elective credit hours? I mean, because like you say, they need more languages, they need more mathematics. We're still taking .5 of that away to do a course requirement that we are forcing them to do outside of state mandates. I mean, is that-
But I think we're also, if you remember, 2409 also presents some additional options for kids to get some of the things they need, which then opens up their schedule,
yes.
right? So .5 PE possibly, biliteracy seal or second language, which many of our students would qualify
Right.
for. Looking at AP, so also with our middle school students, by taking algebra, geometry, or world language, they're earning a high school credit before they even get into high school. So I think 24-9 is what we're looking at, is really clarifying with those competency and proficiencies to allow our students then some little more flexibility in their high school schedule. So that's kind of I see that trade-off. The other thing with the career courses is that one of the things that we've historically run into is a lot of students then struggling with creating that culminating project and then risking not graduating. And literally last year, I think it was up to the day before graduation, I was working on several appeals. And I never want to go back through that again. It's very emotional when a kid has all their credits and you're telling them they're not going to graduate because they didn't finish the project.
And there's some other components that we've built in for the teacher that will teach career choices. There's independent study options for students, and the teacher has time to manage that. So that creates, if you want to do it outside of the school day, that's totally fine. Here's some, so we'll have to develop the modules and things like that for that, but I think that that's a great opportunity. We also have it planned in the schedule for it to be offered 0 period, and I know that we have got some kiddos that won't be able to access it because of orchestra or other things, but really trying to be creative with the scheduling of the course so that, and it's one semester, so they'd have that opportunity first semester or second semester, just trying to be flexible as much as possible to that.
And one of the things that we heard from many of our graduating students that have come back and shared the financial literacy piece is something that they recommend that we do a better job with our current students. And so we're taking also feedback, which we also have a state financial literacy piece that required, which this half semester class would help to accommodate. So I think between 2409 with the schedule that we put together with a 0 period, so those students could take it, 0 period, or take it independent study, which was basically what every student was doing before. But students that maybe lack the persistence and attention to organization of that were struggling to complete it, and then we were spending enormous amounts of staffing time helping those students in the last month or 2 weeks to get that done in order to graduate.
So putting it in the framework of the course solves those issues because the teacher has one-on-one time with the student to help them with the project. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share some of the student feedback on the financial literacy component or the course in general that you've received with the board? I know I would like to see some firsthand accounts of the course.
I think a lot of that has been anecdotal.
It's been anecdotal.
Okay.
I haven't
Over
received
time,
anything in
yeah.
writing, but just students talking to them and saying, how's it going in college? And they said, oh, well, like a credit card,
Yeah, I know that's true.
a debit card, finding
And-
out that debit card is not always forgiving if someone gets your debit card. Different things about balancing, managing. Those are some components that we're really taking a look at.
And the expectation for that is pretty significant. I know I've had conversations with folks from the high school about, is there ways to embed some of that coursework in other areas? And it would be really difficult. Is it impossible? No. But would it be difficult, and would it then decrease the content from another area? Definitely. It definitely would take away from that.
I think that's right, because a lot of that financial literacy is like lower level math, and when you need to hear the message is when you're a graduating senior. But by then you're taking algebra 2 through calculus or something like that, and so how do you then go back and talk about compounded interest and things like, it doesn't fit in the same. So I can see that. This is agonizing for me because, and the only reason I can stomach it is because of 2409 and the fact that you guys have accommodated an independent study aspect to it. But I would like to somehow schedule, maybe in 2 years or even after the first year, looking at it again, looking
We can do
at
it.
how other districts are addressing the financial literacy piece, which, because we opted into this culminating project, we didn't have to.
Right.
So that could go away at any time, but it sounds like
It's true.
financial literacy is definitely here to stay. So it'd be interesting to learn how other districts are doing it, because right now, we're doing it, and it sounds like it's gonna be a great course, one I would like my own student to take, but it is taking away choices.
Well, and one of the things you'll see nationwide is many states are now requiring financial literacy as a separate course, a standalone. I wouldn't be surprised if you, in the future, see something in Washington State.
At that point, we would have to seriously
Take away
consider taking
culminating
away the
project.
culminating project. I mean, I
Well,
think that's-
Yeah,
It's-
and then the number of graduation requirements would have to be adjusted. I mean, yeah, but
It's an ongoing, and 2 years ago, there were so many changes happening. I mean, actually, this particular policy had 3 different columns depending on what year you entered high school, because there were so many different graduation requirements.
delete.
It was a mess.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was a
Yep. State
complete
Board of Education.
complete
Get
mess.
rid of
Susan's
them.
favorite.
Yeah.
I really like
But
the
not a
idea
fan.
of readdressing all of this in about
Uh-huh.
2 years to see how things are
Let the
going.
course play out, let some people take it. and
Yeah.
So we could see how it runs, and then we could give you some
I'm hopeful
feedback
that, yeah,
regarding how many students took
Yeah.
it zero, independent,
Yeah,
Yeah.
in course.
even after the first year.
that's what
we
I'm
should know
hopeful is that
yeah.
First year, we
next
could
summer
give you-
that we're
bring
here
some data.
to
Yeah.
talk with you about, how did we see a difference in the number of students that stayed on track with their culminating project and all those. I think we'll have some good solid data to be able to come and share with you about the results of year 1 of implementation.
I like that.
And then
idea.
you can make an educated decision based
Yeah.
on some real data.
Can I just get a couple clarifications just to make sure that I'm understanding? So the financial literacy piece is going to be part of the career choices
Yes.
class.
Yes,
And the career choices class is expected to be taken senior year?
yes.
Okay.
It would be a senior year class.
Okay.
In
First
terms
semester or
of
second?
this chart, to make it more readable, I would take out including civics.
Yes,
on
and I
social
meant to do
studies.
that. That was feedback that you gave me last week, and I
Okay.
forgot to do that.
And then the ones that are supposed to be like footnotes, they're in the parentheses, so it'll say
Yeah.
2 parentheses 2, like that, when you go to read it, it's initially confusing. If there's a
Well, that
word or-
whole, so if I'm
We
more
talked
than
about the
interested
fourth
in
column.
feedback as to how to make that more.
Well, can they not just be put in superscripts like a normal footnote?
Sure. Happy to do that.
Because that would
Yeah.
be obvious, then you're visually, you'd go, oh, there's a footnote that
Okay.
goes with this, and
All right, I'm
then,
happy to do that.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
or Shannon can coach me on how. Yeah. It will happen.
Because initially, you read it and you think that that all of that is about credits.
Yeah.
and It's kind of a,
It's specific to,
Yeah.
particular areas. So, yeah, we can fix that.
okay. All right.
Could you, I understand the link changing situation, you don't want to directly hyperlink to it. Could you at least put some descriptive comments and a footnote telling people how to get to both this list right here that's been deleted of the credits? And so it's probably be a footnote on the table saying to see, course equivalencies or courses that map, go here.
Yeah.
And then for the culminating project as well, just so that if people find themselves here for some odd reason, they can at least navigate.
Yeah, we can make that.
Perfect.
And sometimes what also, and I'll have to go back because it's, well, I've lived and breathed this thing, I can't remember it specifically, but also sometimes it will say at the end that the board directs the superintendent to create procedures for this policy.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, we'll add that. That would also be an indication to a parent
go
that
to
they
the
needed to
procedure.
go to the procedure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right there. We'll develop procedures. There
Yeah.
it is. It's the last sentence. And typically, I think, Nathan, what you're asking for would be in the course catalog.
Yeah.
And that's,
I'm asking for just a simple statement, see the course catalog for course equivalencies, or see the,
Procedure.
document on the counseling website for,
and we could
Senior
add that
project.
kind
Yeah.
of down in there.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the power of a hyperlink would be great, but we can
yeah,
put that
just
into
don't
the
redesign your
procedure.
website every week.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, the procedure is listed when you go through the policy
yeah,
listings
Yeah.
on the site. The procedure is right next
Yeah.
to it. So anybody
Yeah.
looking is going to see that there's a 2410 and then a 2410P.
yes.
I don't think anyone knows what the P means. I really don't.
Well, I know, but if you see anything and you realize that's the
Yeah.
you'd want to check out everything referring to it, or that has it.
In the list,
it's indicated.
Susan's right, they're back to back
Yeah.
all the time, yeah.
One would hope, at least we know they can find it by, if they can find the policy, they can find the procedure.
True.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you for the
comments?
discussion.
No, thank you.
No,
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was good. Well, we need to,
Yeah.
it's been something we need to get straightened out.
Yeah, painful, but necessary.
No, that's
All right.
highlights the importance of.
So that concludes our discussion items for the evening. There are some informational items, although that procedure 2409, was that in there? I don't think it was. Okay.
No, it was
Yeah,
not.
okay,
It's
so
just-
we'll look for those at an upcoming meeting. We do have an executive session tonight for the purpose of negotiations. About how long will that take?
10 minutes or less.
Okay, so if there are no objections, we will recess into an executive session lasting about 10 minutes. So it will, no action will be taken, and we'll adjourn this meeting then at 8:30.